All right, here we go. Look, I can't even start this thing with any type of excitement, any type of, you know, bruh, you and I are Sixers fans, lifelong Sixers fans. Can you remember yourself ever being uh, as angry with this team as you are now? Let's just put it out there. Have you ever been this angry with this team as you are right now?
I'm not angry at the team.
Who are you angry with? Well,
Myself.
first of all, are you angry? Let's start right there. Are you angry? I'm angry.
I'm angry with myself.
Angry with yourself. Why? What did you do to
And see,
deserve you being angry with yourself?
CJB, what happens is, all right. So for those out there, normally start of a week, I'll hit JB up, see what his schedule's like for the week, see what time we can get together to give you all some content. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been doing that during the playoffs.
No.
I've been very quiet,
Mm-hmm.
intentionally, because what I wanted to do was, for a brief period, stop being objective and watch like a fan.
Okay.
Watching like a fan means I'm not looking to really break down X's and O's the same way, matchups the same way. What I'm doing at that point is just I'm almost looking for excuses in my brain where I think my team can win.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm choosing to believe that they can win at that point and attaching hope to it. I should have known better. I I should have known better.
Mm.
You have a point guard who can't shoot. I I know I'm opposed to that fundamentally. You have a point guard who won't shoot. I know every time we've brought that up, I've said clearly I think he needs to be more willing to take shots.
Mm.
But I was willing to ignore that. You have a secondary scorer who's known for disappearing in moments. I chose to ignore that. Your secondary scorer is also not truly a great defender. Your So these are all things I chose to ignore
Mm.
in order to just flat out root for my team. I And see, here's the thing. I'm not necessarily as high on Trey Young as everyone else is.
No. In
And
fact, and let's
let me
you
finish
sure?
real quick. Yeah,
Okay.
let me finish. But the thing is that, although I'm not very high on Trey Young, and the thing is with that, me saying that, if Ben Simmons maintains his regular season 65% free throw percentage, this series is over in 5 games.
Mm-hmm.
Shooting 30%, you blow a big lead in a close game 4, you blow a big lead in a close game 5. So, but these are all things that I know who these guys are. And I chose to ignore it. So I'm mad at me.
That's very mature.
And I didn't
I
even
give
mention the coach yet.
I give you credit for
I,
that, man.
I didn't even mention the coach yet.
I give you credit for being very mature. I give you credit. I admire that about you. I think one thing that we can both say is that we both try to be honest on this show.
Mm-hmm.
We both very well try to be honest on this show, and I'm going to be honest right now. I sat here and I listened to you, and I thought you were very honest. I thought you were very, you were to the point, and you made good points. I like that about you. That's not me. I'm not mad at myself. I'm mad at this team. I'm mad at this team for the situation that they have put me in. I feel, and I feel as a Philadelphia fan, one, I feel like I am in the same position. I've now been put in the same position twice this year. Whereas there are people, there's been a loud clamor of people who are ready to get rid of Ben Simmons. It's gotten louder and louder every year. And I, for one, I've been a Ben defender. I don't think I've necessarily looked at his deficiencies with rose-colored glasses, but I've given him the benefit of the doubt to say, hey, man, this is something that can be fixed, and if he fixes it, he will be lethal. He is somebody that I feel like, you know what? If he gets this right, he could be a game changer. And I did not want to see Ben Simmons get it right in some other team's uniform. I did not want to see that. But just like just like when we were in this situation a couple months before with Carson Wentz, it has gotten to the point where it's like, I can't defend bruh no more. I don't want to defend bruh no more. It is what it is. I haven't necessarily changed in my views, but it's like, you know what? Bruh, if I'm out here in these Twitter streets, if I'm out here on social media defending you, you cannot go 4 straight games without taking a shot in the fourth quarter.
Yes, he can, because he did.
Yeah, well, look, not if you want to have me up on my little podcast talking to my little audience defending you, which I've done time and time and time and time again. Bro, I can't defend you. I can't. Bro, it can't be games when you're sitting here saying, hey, man, if you hit 4 or 5 more free throws, we win.
But this is a game where you probably miss 10.
Mm-hmm.
If you go 50% on that 10, we win the game.
I'm full transparency. I am 6'4", over 400 pounds. You put me on a ball court, put a ball in my hand at the free throw line. You give me 14 opportunities to make a shot. I am making more than 4. I'm not out here. I've never been somebody who come on this show and act like I can hang with NBA players. I can't even hang with the family of NBA players. I did not play basketball in high school. I did not play basketball in college. And bro, I can barely play NBA Live. I'm not a pro, I like the sport of basketball. I like to watch it. Put a ball in my hand in my driveway. I hit some shots. Bro, I'm telling you, I know I could do better than 23% from the free throw line in the NBA. I know that, look, I would average less than a field goal a game. But if I get to the free throw line, I'm going to get me some points. If I could get to the free throw line, I'm going to get me some. That might be the only way I get buckets. I might never make it down to the other side of the court to play defense. I'll sit here cherry pick. But bruh, I can't defend Ben Simmons anymore. And it's like, I feel like that loss, and I'm frustrated because I feel like I don't necessarily feel like I was wrong in my thinking or wrong in my philosophies, but I'm put in a position where I can't argue them anymore. I can't defend Ben Simmons anymore.
Well, see, my thing is, I ignored my own philosophies
Mm-hmm.
in order to go along for the ride with this team.
Mm.
Because when you look top to bottom in the Eastern Conference, every team was flawed. Giannis has all the same flaws Ben Simmons has in his game, minus being afraid. But the inability to shoot, actually, Giannis has less moves, offensive moves, than Ben Simmons. Giannis has
Mm-hmm.
no, he has no moves. He has one move, but get a running start, go to the rim.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not afraid. Ben Simmons let fear paralyze him.
Mm-hmm.
And before anybody thinks I'm putting it all on Ben Simmons,
It's not.
or before anyone thinks I'm putting it all on Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons, let's
Mm-hmm.
talk about Glenn Rivers for a minute.
Oh man, you ain't even calling him Doc no more, huh?
Because there was a show we did in the off season after Brett Brown was fired, and when Mr. Rivers was brought in, I remember the conversation going towards, because JB, you know this, I
Mm-hmm.
was always the first one to say Brett Brown may not be the best coach in the world,
Mm-hmm.
but I never believed he was the biggest reason for the Sixers' shortcomings in the past.
Okay.
I've said it repeatedly. And now we went and we got Glenn Rivers, who he's blown more 3-1 series leads than anyone in history. I don't believe there's anybody else who's blown more than one. And he's blown, what, 4? 3, 4 of them? Something like that. Then he got the 2-1 lead this year with a big lead in game 4, blown. A big lead in game 5, blown. We see a real reluctance to make in-game adjustments. We saw him get what appeared to be outcoached during the series as well, pretty much in a similar manner to many of the same things we saw with Brett Brown. And it brings you to a point where you have to believe that the biggest issue is roster construction.
Mm.
Well, and the reason I say the biggest issue is roster construction, because you have a roster that's constructed to operate at its highest point when Ben Simmons is facilitating and distributing. But in the highest leverage moments, I've got to take the ball out of the guy who runs the offense's hands. And you remember that stretch at the end of the season where Ben Simmons didn't play?
Mm-hmm.
What did the Sixers offense look like? Stagnant, not really cohesive, because Simmons, for all of his flaws, is a very good passer, facilitator, and setter of pace.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, look at last year. Look at last year's playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Last year's playoffs without Ben Simmons,
They got swept first
they
round.
got swept. Offense never looked intact.
Mm-hmm.
Offense, we were it's crazy to me that we have now in 2 consecutive years have now seen the full gamut of Ben Simmons emotions. Last year, Sixers get swept in the playoffs without Ben Simmons. And people were saying, how much of a difference would Ben Simmons make? How much of a difference would Ben Simmons make in this series against the Celtics had he been there, had he been able to facilitate, had he been able to run that offense? It was a whole bunch of what ifs that whole summer. You come back this year, you get Simmons, and Simmons has an up and down season. You know, he had some good he had some good moments, but he struggled. He struggled, and also the knocks that people were making about his offense were still there. Still reluctant to take jump shots. His free throw his free throw percentage was not the abomination that it was in this playoffs. But nonetheless, you go into this year's playoffs and you're like, all right, Ben is going to have to, Ben has to give you a little bit more on the offense as far as scoring, shooting the ball, because you know that defenses are going to back up off him. You know, defenses are going to give him that mid-range jumper. You know, he's not going to be Steph Curry out this piece. You know, he's never going to be that guy that's just out there jacking up threes. He's not even going to be Giannis and shoot you out of a game.
But you don't have to be that.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah.
All he has to do is become competent from the free throw line, 70% plus. 70% is very, very low for an NBA guard. He has to get the 70% plus, and he needs to have some sort of willingness to shoot, not when it's like the spot up, catch and shoot, or off the dribble pull up, but when the defense is abandoning you and leaving you to your own devices. You got to
make them pay.
You got to make them pay. You got to make them respect, because you're making your teammates' job harder. And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That double team gets to Embiid faster when your guy doesn't have to guard you at all. If I can sit 10 feet off you, anytime you're on the perimeter, I'm right there to be on Embiid or double Tobias or whoever else has the hot hand. I don't have to guard him.
This is an adjustment that Nate McMillan made in this series. In the first couple of games, Embiid was killing the double teams. He was finding the open guys. You drop Trae Young down there to try and double team Embiid. He's finding Seth. He's finding his jump shooters. But as that series goes on, and you see that Ben Simmons has pretty much said, you know what, I am not trying to shoot. It got to the point where Ben Simmons didn't even want the ball in his hands. You watch that series, especially when you start getting to game 3, game 4, game 5, game 6, game 7. You give Ben Simmons the ball out of bounds after they score. When is he giving the ball up? Ben Simmons is half court, if that. Half court, the other team's free throw line. How many times did you sit there and watch Embiid bring the ball down court when he didn't have to? Not on a break.
When he shouldn't. Not when he didn't have to. When he shouldn't.
Why? If you're the point guard, why are you watching your center bring the ball down court to set up your offense?
Which means he's probably not in the scoring position now.
I'm not blind. You saw this too, right? Because look, man, you the basketball guy. You the coach. You the player. You played at a whole bunch of different levels than me. You played college ball. I played at the Y. You played college ball. I played at Crestmont Park. But you saw that, though. You saw Embiid bringing the ball down court. Tobias bringing the ball down. Now, I understand that sometimes they use Tobias as secondary ball handler. That's still your 4. Crucial games, you got your 5 and your 4 bringing the ball down court, setting up the offense. And to me, I feel like you said, and maybe we'll use this as a way to pivot back to Doc Rivers. I understand you know he's not Doc no more after this offseason to you. But I feel like I feel like this is a test of Ben Simmons' mettle And I'm not sure if Ben Simmons is up to this. And I will tell you, I will tell you why. Well, hold on. Let me make this one point, and I'll yield the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel, me, shout out to Javon Alford, because we talked during these games, and I said, I hate narratives. I feel like this city pushes narratives. This fan base pushes narratives over reality. This what it, the visual over the reality.
Oh no, go ahead and say what I said, because you said that right after I made a comment. Go ahead and say what I said.
And I said, you know what? I said, we push these narratives, but for the first time in a long time, you know what? You might be on to something. He doesn't look interested. I look at the changes that he makes, and I'm not sure if Ben Simmons is up to that the moments of self-introspect that he needs in order to see this through.
It reminds me of a conversation we had about Ben in the past, about improving versus evolving.
Okay.
And I say, I see him improving, getting better at the things he does, but I don't see his game evolving because I don't see him adding anything to it. He's just getting better at the things he already does at a fairly high level from the time he came in the league. But with every other pro, you see them add moves, add little things, add a couple little range to their jump shot, add a post game or add. Ben's not. And I always ask the question, what has been added to his game?
I feel like, let me add something to this. I want to put this out there because I want your opinion on this. Because I feel like part of the problem, when we talk about why it's in Ben's head, what's in Ben's head? What I see from Ben Simmons is I think this is the first time in Ben Simmons' career, in Ben Simmons' basketball life, whereas the faults of the team fall on him. It's never been his fault.
And see, here's the thing.
Well, hold on, and let me expound, and I'll give it to you. It's never been his fault. You look at high school; he was the best player on the team. College, he was the best player on the team. If those teams had shortcomings, it wasn't his fault.
If you're the best player on the team, it is your fault. You have to own that. That's part of what comes with the best player on the team. You own the wins and you own the losses.
That is a mentality. I don't think it, but would you agree not everybody shares that mentality?
I don't believe he shares that mentality.
Well, it's becoming completely obvious that he doesn't share it. But I feel like this is the first time in his life where he has to look at himself and say, what can I do to make this situation better? And I'm not sure that he's built like that to truly ask himself that question. I am not sure if in Ben Simmons' heart of hearts, he feels like these issues are his fault. This team's shortcomings are his fault. I understand what you and I see because it's obvious. This is not your point or my point, failing to reach one another. I don't feel like you don't understand what I'm saying, and I certainly don't feel like I don't understand what you're. I hear you, but I am not convinced that Ben Simmons is sitting there laid up in his bed right now. If he's up in his bed, because it's only 8:30 when we having this conversation. But I don't know if Ben Simmons is laid up right now thinking, man, what can I do? I got to get this jump shot. I got to do this. I don't know if Ben Simmons is built like that. I don't know if Ben Simmons can do that.
Well, see, here's the thing. This playoffs made me realize something about Ben Simmons, at least as of right now. I'm not saying this could never change, but what I am about to put forward, the theory I'm about to put forward, is somewhat contrary to the typical narrative on Ben Simmons. The narrative is that he's unselfish to a fault.
Mm.
Would you agree on Ben Simmons' game is unselfish?
Yeah, he is always going to look. He's the guy who always looks to make that extra pass, even when you don't need to make the extra pass.
But see, here's the thing. I've realized something. Ben Simmons' game is very selfish. It's extremely selfish.
How so?
Because he will, in order to not risk looking bad at something, hurt the team.
Mm.
In order to not risk looking bad at free throws or not looking bad at jump shooting, he will do things which are a detriment to the team on the court. That is selfish. Because the only reason for that is because I'm scared. I don't want to look bad. I might miss. I might have to go to the free throw line and miss. That doesn't work for me, you know? That is, but that's a revelation I had watching these playoffs. Like, we keep thinking this guy is unselfish. No, this guy is very selfish.
Mm-hmm.
Because your number one job, especially as a point guard, is to make things easier for the rest of the team, for everyone to make the offense work properly. And he's making everyone's job harder.
Agreed. And I like what makes this frustrating. And honestly, what makes this frustrating is because you're sitting here now and we're looking squarely at what could be the end of the Ben Simmons era in Philly. I don't know if he'll be back. I don't know if they can bring him back. I don't, I honestly, I don't know. And it's like, I was a firm believer in the process. I was always a firm believer in the process. I was a firm believer because I felt like in this city, we have always felt like the answer to a team that's not winning is to tear it down and rebuild it. You will hear, you will hear claims like that no matter what team it is when they don't win.
Depends on your situation. Now, with the situation the Sixers were in, where you had several bloated contracts, so you don't have money to bring in a max player, and at that point, Philly, while it's a major market, was not necessarily somewhere we can call a destination city. It's not New York, LA, Miami. It's not state income tax free Texas with Dallas or Houston, which, believe it or not, goes a long way when you're counting millions, when you don't have to pay state income tax.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not one of these places, but it is a major market. It is a big city, but fans are expecting top 5 market results, and if you're stuck in the middle of the road, you're at a place where you're too good to miss the playoffs, be in the lottery, and bring in top talent.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not bad. You're too bad to compete for a championship. Everyone knows you're not a real contender. You're in basketball purgatory.
But that was the post Iverson Sixers.
Mm-hmm.
They'd make the playoffs
as an 7 or 8 seed.
A 7 or 8 seed, not get a lottery pick. It was like, but they were making the playoffs every other year. They'd make the playoffs, not get a lottery pick,
not
be able to improve,
and
then the next season, not make the playoffs, get a lottery pick.
But when they missed the playoffs, if 16 out of 30 teams made the playoffs, they're number 12, 13, 14. Where you're at the bottom of the lottery is not really a top pick.
Bottom of the lottery, yeah, you're not getting a game changer, but you're still getting you're getting a good player, a player that when put into your mix gets you nice enough to get right back to that 8 or 7 seed.
Mm-hmm.
Then you make the playoffs, not make the lottery, not be able to improve.
You're an NBA
And
purgatory.
yeah, and I feel like when they when they risked it all to bring in Andrew Bynum, they went all in, put all our eggs in one. Traded what was probably their best draft pick in a long time, and say whatever you want. It was Nick Vucevic.
Mm-hmm.
Their best post Iverson player, Andre Iguodala, to bring in Andrew Bynum, who gave them absolutely nothing. So when it came time for the process, it was like, hey, you know what?
It was probably the right move.
Yeah, it was the right move. Let's blow this all up and let's start over.
The thing with the process was you missed on some picks. You missed on a few picks. You missed on more than you hit.
Yeah.
If we're honest about it, you missed on more picks than you hit on during the process.
You missed on more picks than you hit. But
Michael Carter Williams, Nerlens Noel, Jahlil Okafor.
But I think what in Sam Hinkie's vision of the process was he knew he was not going to hit on everyone. But he tried to put himself in a position whereas if you see that it's not working, you cut bait and you put yourself in a position to try and hit on somebody else.
I agree. But you got to hit it higher than a 33% success rate.
Oh, yeah. No, I understand.
If you're picking in the top 5 of the draft, I need more than one out of every 3 of those players to be good.
Well, I will say this.
I need 2 out of 3 at least.
2 out of 3. When the Sixers were ready to turn the corner, you had Embiid, you had Simmons. When they were saying that, hey, you know what? All these high draft picks that we took, of the Nerlens, of the Jaws, of the Darios,
your MCWs, your Markelle Fultz. He's a lot of guys.
Yeah, these are the 2 guys these are the cornerstones. We found our cornerstones. It's going to be Ben. It's going to be JoJo. This is what it's going to be. And I feel like.
All right, so just let me count real quick. Okay. I'm gonna let you finish. I just want to make sure we got a good count.
Yeah.
So Ja, Nerlens, MCW, Embiid, Fultz, Simmons.
Sorry,
and Sarge.
Sarge. We'll throw Sarge in there too.
So that's what, 7 lottery picks?
7 lottery picks. Yep.
2 of them.
2 of them.
And one of them is extremely flawed to the point where people are wondering if you can win with them right now.
This is the thing. You heard people go back and forth over whether or not the process was a success. There are people calling the process a failure. There were people that doubted the process from the very beginning. Said this isn't going to work. This is bad for basketball. Tanking's never going to work. Whatever. I feel like now that as we get to the point that I'm making is I felt like I have always defended the process, but just like Ben Simmons, I can't do it anymore.
And I say it this way: the process, in theory, is still a viable way to build a team.
Yeah, no,
I agree. I think the Sixers proved as much when you get as many top 5 picks as they got, when you get as many lottery picks as you got, when you get 3 number 1 picks on your roster, you should be able to build a team that can compete for a championship. But you have to have some. So, from that standpoint, viable way to build a team, but you have to have somebody making those picks who's going to get them right. Sam Hinkie was just, I'm a throw everything at the wall and see what sticks with my picks kind of guy.
Yeah.
That's not. And Colangelo's, those guys have been over throughout their careers as much. what's the word? As much notoriety as they have, as much as their reputations are what they are throughout NBA, the NBA community, you still have to look at them and say, really, what have you done to build a team that was better than an NBA purgatory level team?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you bring in a lot of, like, they build a lot of teams that are middling. And truth be told, during the Colangelo years, that seemed to be where they were headed.
Yeah. No.
So,
well, I guess I look at this as we approach the fork in the road with Ben Simmons, where you have to make serious decisions as to whether or not we are going to keep this man or move on. I feel like at this point in time, Ben Simmons' value probably hasn't been lower.
Never been lower.
It's never been lower. You're saying it's never been lower than right now?
No.
No, okay, then we're on the same page. Okay. That's what I'm trying to say. It's never been lower than right now. You trade Ben Simmons now, you're trading him and you're taking an L.
Mm-hmm.
You took an L on Nerlens. You took an L on Ja. You took an L on Fultz.
Mm-hmm.
I think
that's what's going to happen when you get picks wrong.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is now that you've missed on picks.
Mm-hmm.
Nerlens wasn't it.
Mm-hmm.
Ja wasn't it. Fultz wasn't it.
But that's what I mean when I go back to where I say that you got to have somebody making these picks who knows what they're doing. Because once the pick isn't it, you'll never get that pick's value out of it. Now it's like you just can't. Like I take a guy number one, and he turns out to be a fraud. You know what happens? I'm not going to get number one pick value for him.
No.
I'm going to get second round pick value out of him now because everybody in the league knows this guy's not good enough and they're bailing out on him.
You traded Fultz and Ja for people who weren't on the roster the very next year.
Mm-hmm.
That was the number one pick, number three pick.
Mm-hmm.
Both traded for players who weren't on the team next year. Probably the most value they got for trading process lottery picks. Thought the MCW trade was probably a pretty good trade. Was able to get another first, a first that you were able to flip a couple of times to put you in a better position, and then you were able to package Dario and Covington to get Jimmy Butler.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two
who you couldn't keep because of Ben Simmons.
Couldn't keep, yeah, but still, I think that was probably the best value you got when you look at trades they've made for those guys for process lottery picks.
But Jimmy Butler left in free agency after half a season.
I understand that.
How much value is that?
We're comparing value of the picks of the trades that they've made. I didn't say that this was a great trade. I'm just
saying though, keep it in perspective. Like it is probably one of the better value deals. But how much value did you really get? Because all you got is a half season of Jimmy Butler, and then he left in free agency for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't even like you traded Jimmy Butler to get something back.
Well, they traded him for Jason Richardson, who then got traded for Curry.
Okay. Well, okay, you're right. The Jimmy Butler deal did end up being a sign and trade. Where you got Jason Richardson.
But your point
is Seth Curry. So Seth Curry is decent.
Yeah.
But that's the value you got for it. Seth Curry.
Mm-hmm. Seth Curry. Nobody's saying Seth Curry for Jimmy Butler is.
But Seth Curry for Dario and Covington, which is what
essentially
the Sixers' own capital that they used. That's fair.
But I say all this to say that now, when you're now looking at trading Ben Simmons for a loss, now it becomes harder and harder to argue with people who feel like the process was a fail. That's where I am. Where it's like, okay, you know what? I've someone who will get out here and I would defend the process because I felt like it was something that needed to be done. I felt like we out of that we got Joel Embiid, who could finish his career a top 5 all time Sixer. You got Ben Simmons, who at one point in time you thought had a whole ton of potential, but
I think Joel Embiid is a top 5 all time Sixer right now.
okay,
You don't have 5 better than him.
okay.
Doc, Charles, AI are your
Doc,
contenders.
Doc, Charles, AI, Wilt, Embiid.
Problem with Wilt was
Well, look,
how long how long
Wilt,
was he a
you're
Sixer?
talking,
Wilt,
you're talking Sixers versus Warriors.
mm-hmm.
But still, nonetheless, is even if you want to take Wilt out at this point, you're talking Moses. Even though he was only here for a couple of seasons,
He was here for a cup of coffee.
yeah,
Great player, but you're talking about
great
great
player, helped bring a
Sixers.
championship to the city. But
Mm-hmm.
nonetheless, what I'm saying, your point, your point and my point aren't far off. Where it's like, okay, if we're going to hem and haw over Moses and Wilt in the as top Sixers, that
Mm-hmm.
puts Embiid in there.
Exactly.
You're talking about moving Embiid from 5 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
So, but nonetheless, you got a franchise player in that deal.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
should have had more.
should have had more.
No getting around it. Should have had more.
Should have had more. Should have, there. You can second guess almost all of those picks. Nerlens Noel over C.J. McCollum.
Check my tape. It's not second guessing.
Mm.
We've been doing radio for a while. I got tape out here. It ain't second guessing.
This man out here telling people to check his receipts. Nonetheless, that's where we are though. We're at the end of Ben. I don't know. I am not confident that Ben will take the look inside himself to improve himself. Whereas I feel like, if you're Daryl Morey, and you're not necessarily, you didn't draft. If you're Daryl Morey, you didn't draft Ben.
Mm-mm.
You didn't give Ben that bone. You didn't re-sign Ben. You didn't extend Ben.
Mm-mm.
Ben's not your guy.
No, Daryl Morey's reputation has no attachment to Ben Simmons.
Exactly.
He doesn't sink or swim with Ben.
So if you're Daryl Morey, you're saying to Ben, get your ass in the gym. I don't need no Twitter videos. I don't need no Instagram tape. I don't need none of that. I need you in camp next fall hitting J's. I need you in games hitting jumpers. I need you being able to give me in the regular season. You are a point guard who gets to the rim better than almost anybody. You get to the rim, you facilitate. I need you shooting at least 70%. A guard should be able to cough 70% in the league. I need.
Last thing I'm gonna say.
Okay.
The last thing I really want to say though.
Okay.
I truly hope that what we're seeing from Ben Simmons in the playoffs, to some extent, what we see from Giannis in the playoffs this season and definitely previous seasons, will force basketball evaluators to put more weight onto actual basketball skill and not just size and athleticism.
Mm.
Especially when we're looking at top picks, top of value, like max contract deal. Like at the time of the draft and the time you're giving out max contracts, we have to look at more than just size and athleticism. What are we actually talking about basketball skill. Because at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to.
No, I hear you. I hear you. And that's what makes this whole thing so maddening. Because this is where we are. Probably, this is probably the best Sixers team in the last 20 years.
Clearly not saying much.
Clearly not saying much, but still the best. This was a team that had legitimate championship aspirations. Not saying they were going to win a championship. We can't say they were going to win a championship, because if they were going to win a championship, they wouldn't be home right now.
But knowing what you know, do you think they literally had legitimate championship aspirations? Or did you let yourself believe they did?
I put too much faith in what ifs.
And that's why I started the show with I'm mad at me.
I'm not mad at me.
I put too much faith in what ifs.
I did the same, but unlike you want to blame yourself. No, I want to blame the Sixers. I'm mad at the Sixers. You want to know why else I'm mad at the Sixers? Let me show you why I'm mad at the Sixers. See this package right here? See this package? This is a good package. This is a live. This is what I'm going to do on this show for the people watching on the good Facebook. This is a live unboxing, an unwrapping, because I was trying to get ready for the Eastern Conference Finals. So what did I do? I got on the goodfanatics.com and I ordered me a couple of Sixers shirts. That's what I did, because I just knew. Got me. Look at this joint. Got me AI joint. Got me got two new Sixers shirts, two brand new Sixers shirts, because I was pretty much wearing Sixers gear every time they had a game, and I'm like, look, I'm running out of clean clothes. I need, I do my laundry whenever I can. Can't be out here wearing the same shirts every week. Got two new shirts. I can't wear these this season. I gotta wait till the off season. Can't wear no more Sixers gear. That's why I'm wearing Penn State gear now. I'm mad at the team, man. Mad at the team. I'm not ready to say Ben Simmons got to go, but if he goes, I won't shed too many tears. I'll understand. We're at a point where, as Philly fans, this is going to be we're going to lose Carson Wentz and Ben Simmons in the same year.
Let's see, what I don't want to do right now, though, is start talking off season. Yeah, I don't want to do that.
It is off season.
It's not.
It is. Sixers
off season doesn't start till after the finals, and you know what's what.
Mm-hmm.
Guys actually can start opting out of contracts, and you know who's available, and you know who's holding the market. Right now, we're playing a completely blind guessing game, and let's see what the market looks like before we start talking about what's available and where we can go. Look, we'll drive ourselves crazy like that.
Well, look, all right, that is fair enough, but nonetheless, I am sitting here and I am telling you, I'm like, man, bruh, I understand that we can't necessarily talk about the logistics of where Ben Simmons can go, who he's going. I'm just saying that if he goes, and there's a good chance that he will, I will not struggle to accept that.
Oh,
just like with Carson, where it's like I didn't want I was frustrated with Carson. He wasn't playing well. There were issues within the Eagles season that fell directly at his feet. That were his fault.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't the only problem. Similar cases. You're sitting there, you're looking at the ownership, you're looking at the coaching, you're looking at the player. Same with the Sixers. I look at the ownership, I look at the coaching, I look at the player. If the player goes, hey, bruh, it is what it is. Still got my Ben Simmons jersey, but once again, I ain't wearing that anytime soon. At least not outside the house. Got to get me a Maxey jersey.
I don't even want to talk about it no more.
I understand. All right, but look. You let us know what
I'm done.
You let us know what you think of this podcast. Hit us up, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at BITW Sports or Jonesy and Brown. One word, Jonesy and Brown. Make sure you download this podcast wherever you get your local podcast. Just search Best in the World Sports. He is Mike Jones. I am John Brown. Thank you for... Golly, Sixers are done. Sixers are done. They're done, and we're done for this week. We'll be back later with another good podcast. Peace, y'all.